Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Glass.
Yes.
Holder.
Yes.
Slater.
Yep.
Hood.
Yes.
Cunningham.
Here.
Tucker.
Yes.
Jim Kirkpatrick.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 18th?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Hood.
Yes.
Glass.
Yes.
Holder.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes. Next, we'll move to the bylaws. I'm lost on that one.
Well, my committee member's been out of town doing something, so we're supposed to, we'll be ready for next time. And I'll go ahead and update the tax ID number too. We're in the middle of filling out a rather complicated tax ID number form, but
We have it.
hopefully by the next meeting we'll be complete with both of those projects.
Need to table that again.
Yeah, we did.
I move we table item 4 in the bylaws.
I'll second.
Okay.
Mike second.
To table. Slater.
Yes.
Hood.
Yes.
Glass.
Yes.
Holder.
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes. Is there a treasurer's report?
We have an account at Central National Bank, but we have no report at this time. We don't have any funds in it.
No report, no money, right? Okay, I get it.
They haven't reduced our budget, they've just.
Next will be the update, discussion, possible action regarding scope and location of the proposed project. Any discussion?
You know, and the location, we think we're pretty well firm on, we don't know exactly positive, but we can speak to the proposed project. And I have noticed on you, if we can we talk about the pre-work contract now?
Then it's your scope of work.
Yeah, okay.
That's what he sent you, that you asked for was your scope of work.
So if everybody has this document that is extremely hot off the press, this is a little bit more formal than what he had sent us previously. And he will be available, he is in a meeting right now, approximately in 20 minutes or 30 minutes, something like that, around 12:30 he thought. But I guess I'm looking for discussion, thoughts of what we've got here.
Question that I had is, like on item or 2, on-site review of the existing livestock building and development of building recommendations. What type of information do we think we're gonna get back from that, and how detailed? I mean, is it, what does that mean? Is it gonna be just that it's sound, or, I mean, that was a little bit of a concern.
And which, is that the current arena building? Is that the one we're talking
Right,
about?
yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know that I can answer that, but we would certainly need to ask that.
And then the other one that I had was on the review of site for development advantages and constraints. Is he thinking, I mean, I guess my question, is he gonna give us a evaluation of things such as infrastructure like water and sewer, looking at even elevations and drainage, compact, all those type of things that would affect our, is that gonna be his responsibility, or is that gonna be an architectural type?
That's a good question. I think we need to ask him. I know that he will address those issues as far as being able to sign off on the architectural side of it, you know, based on not having the drawings. I don't know that he could do that, but we need to ask him that question. Those are two very, very, very good questions. Hopefully, he could certainly speak to drainage and elevations, current elevations, and what it would be as far as core samples and that kind of stuff
Yeah.
for compaction purposes might be out.
I didn't know if in this scope of work, if this was gonna forego, I mean, are we thinking that we'll have to have an architectural firm
That's my
besides
question.
this that will take care of all those things? Or is this gonna be inside his scope of work?
Yeah, that That was my question too.
Good question.
Where does he end and the architect begins if there is an architect?
He's an engineer
Yeah.
and not an architect, and so I know that for a fact, so I'm guessing there will be but we need to ask that question when he's available. So, be making notes if not, if you haven't already on those things, so we can make sure.
Yeah, because I did not write down your questions.
Yeah, I've still got.
Okay.
Okay,
I did try to probe him and get some more info, that's why we got the formal. Because I didn't feel like what he had given us was anything that you guys can vote on. I know that, I'd asked him if we could contact him via conference call, because I knew you guys had some questions with the feedback that I'd received already.
And if we have to have an architect involved, you don't want to duplicate work. You don't want this guy to do work that the architect feels like he or she needs to do also.
and I totally agree. I think that well, he's got a lot of design ideas, and I think he's got some good ideas as far as design's concerned. I think one of the mainest things that he was engaged to do previously was to help us wrap our arms around what it was we needed and how we needed it, and to understand the development of the events that could happen there, or the potential of the events that could be happen there by doing the surveys in the community and understand what that is. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm asking if that's what you got out of what he had to say. That's where I see that.
Well, yeah, and he has some expertise in this kind of narrow area of arenas and those types of facilities. My experience always has been that when you get your architect, oftentimes they have a connection with some kind of an engineering firm. And so that might be a little tricky.
That was my unclear. I didn't know if Preferred Complex Design is basically served in dual roles. They took care of the kind of the livestock creation, and then also took it to the next phase through the renderings and the
And he
architectural
mentions
drawings.
renderings, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the rendering, that was part of the last meeting, that was one of the big things that he had to say was the rendering, that we could produce the rendering. The rendering to me is clear into the design phase and the architecture and the whole ball of wax, so I'd be anxious to hear that conversation.
I have a question. Is everybody pretty comfortable with this layout? I mean, I know you guys took trips around in the last couple of years. Is everybody okay with that? With the way this is set up?
Now, was that his or was that other?
I thought it was
With
his.
the Kansas.
That's his.
Well, it's got
Yeah,
Preferred
that's
on it.
it, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was pretty.
No, it's pretty much.
I guess from my position, I'm not 100% sold on that one, because I think it's awful narrow at the front near the road, and we get pretty far to the west. I mean, I don't know. I didn't, in terms of that site.
I don't think I ever looked at that as a final. That was just kind of an idea generating.
Conceptual.
Yeah,
Well,
conceptual.
that's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, from the ones I've looked at, I've gone online, and this is pretty common. I mean, especially for this size.
Yeah.
Just the way this thing lays out. Now, yeah, it's probably too close to the road up there, but.
I think he was trying to tie in the old arena though, wasn't he? With
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And we may be limited to closeness to the road just because of where that is.
Existing stuff.
Yeah, and I know we have a little bit of drainage problem, not that should enter into anything, but on that west side, there's some low
Oh, yeah.
spots back in there too, so that may have been partially what. And when he proposed that originally, he said conceptual, this could all change, this is just our idea of where it is right now.
I was just curious, because people come up and ask, what to tell them.
It was an effort the first thing I think was an effort to show them what was going on and what it could be potentially, not that it was set in stone. Just to watch it evolve, and to spur more comments on, what people thought.
Okay.
outside of the 3 or 4 things, has anybody got more questions about this contract?
Look at this right here, he's talking about architectural, they offer it all.
Yeah, and I hope he'll address that when I get him on the phone for sure. Does you agree with that? I know that they do offer it, contracting with some other firms.
And it says if your group elects to use prefer complex designs to complete the design for bidding and construction, the drawings and preliminary designs can be used as the basis for the production of the construction documents. But I don't know if they then produce the I'm just fuzzy on that.
Well, I think it is, and we certainly don't want to be doing it twice.
Right.
There's no reason to duplicate the services. So hopefully they'll mesh together and fall together quickly.
Is that something we could have, like 1 or 2 from the committee, maybe have a conference call or something with him and get those questions answered and not have to wait till our next full meeting? I mean, if we're wanting to move along, I don't know.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Okay.
Excellent idea.
I had found an RFP for, just a reminder, and I mentioned getting that person who is that professional person, Gloria at Alva, if you guys want to steal. There was an RFP I found for an entity that's similar to what we're talking about that they had put out, so it was, whether it was a person or an agency or whatever, it outlined their scope of what they were looking for. And I'm trying to find it to see if I can send it to all of you.
I guess I'm not sure too, and this is just my own deficiency, I'm not sure what guidelines this authority falls under for selection of an architect. I mean, I know as a state agency, it's very prescribed and very cumbersome and very burdensome. I don't know, the city probably
That's a very
has
good
some
question.
of those. And so I'm not sure exactly, I'm not saying I want us to fall under something like that. I'm just saying we probably need to know, and you guys probably have some pretty specific.
Jen, I apologize. I was busy. I can't tell you what you do.
Okay. Well,
She's talking about the guidelines
Yeah.
that the architectural firm would fall under because it's a trust authority, but it does fall under the city of Alva. Kelly, do you have the answer to that?
I would say probably, because it does get mixed up in a lot of different types of entities, I'd say consult with Rick on that.
You'd think I'd see him. I haven't asked that question. But I think that would be something we probably need to get determined fairly quickly so we don't do work and
I know that
then have to backtrack.
with the city and Sharon, I don't know the details behind it all, but I know we keep a engineering firm on retainer and so that we use them on a regular basis without having to
Go out and
for
rebid.
bid and stuff like that. But,
I know on our project, it was part of our architectural firm contract that we did, that it was all, they took care of the geophysical and the compaction and the elevations, and all of that was part of their project and the cost there associated with it.
Do you have to go through very specific procedures to
Select one.
retain one? Okay, see,
It
we
was just-
even have to get
It was
into.
just, by our local board,
Okay. Okay, that's a better,
Yeah, it's a much
I
better
think you're gonna be
situation.
closer to probably that.
yeah, okay, that would be good.
Okay, so we've got a list of questions that we need to be, that
I
one is.
just didn't want to paper things twice, is what was
Absolutely.
my whole thing. And then even with that location, if they're gonna give us in our site development, is the site conducive to do what we're wanting to accomplish?
Better now than later.
Yeah.
And I think to Dr. Cunningham's point, I think that's extremely good also, that we need to back up just a minute, and I'll check with Rick. I will take that class this time and complete it, check with Rick and find out what kind of guidelines we fall into as far as the architectural firm is concerned. Dr. Cunningham had a great point. I think, Vice Chairman, if it's okay with you, I think it'd be great if somebody is willing to take, for a couple of you, be taking on the task of talking to Glenn privately and work out these issues that, the concerns that we have, would be great.
I'll be glad to be one of those folks.
Any volunteers, Mike?
Well, I haven't done very well with Todd so far.
Maybe you'll do better with this
Bylaws.
one.
Actually, I wrote some up right off the bat.
Under the bus.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Great.
So this subcommittee is going to, look up questions that you have for him. Is there any need for him to go?
Well,
So then, I mean, if there's not, then I'll let him know that, so he doesn't have to go through this.
we could let him know, what do you guys
You
think?
tell me what you want to do.
If you guys have any questions, please send them to us. But that's around my area of thinking, is just, for the dollar figure he quoted, I don't want to, that seems to be pretty high for just a 3D rendering of the outside of the building. So I was assuming that there was more detail into that, even with the existing buildings. That was my clarification. So if you guys have specific things, email those to Mike and I, and we could call him this afternoon even if that would work.
I just think it'd be
Your
easier
schedule.
with a couple, but.
I agree.
And then the other question is it possible that they take this through conception through?
All the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and Dr. King pointed that out, it's in there, and Dr. Tucker did too. It just looked like that they could take the, as a matter of fact, the project administrative expense project through from beginning to end, paragraph 2. on the
Yeah,
proposal.
and what kind of fee
Structure.
structure is that?
And whether this 30 grand would roll into that, or whether it would be an additional fee, or be subtracted thereof of, or whatever.
Do most of the projects you've done work on a percentage?
They do. Yeah.
Okay, that's the way ours, which is significant.
And adds its own set of problems to the project. I'd certainly prefer them doing it on not a percentage basis, but that's just my
Good luck.
2 cents. Right, they most likely will not, but it seems to be problematic at times. So it was the thought that this subcommittee would meet and prepare and make a recommendation. And if they, personally, I'm ready to move, if we can. So if everybody was under the same understanding and I was, once this subcommittee meets and is satisfied, if they could then report back either via somehow, some method, and then we could have a special meeting or have a special meeting and let that be disclosed at that time so that we could yay or nay it. Because if not, then we'll need to be seeking either some other avenue or some other methodology. Is that agreeable?
My other question is I feel like our intent right now is to place this at the existing fairgrounds. What point does our group want to assume, or even the fairgrounds? And then with that comes some additional problems with, if we assume it, we take over insurance and different things like that. Where are we at, you think, in that thought process?
I would look at the 2 representatives that come both from the city and from the county, and that's not a throwing it back. It's, that's the way I see it, is that's part of your role to find out where we are on both of those. And because we know that's going to happen, and it's about going to have to be a marriage, we think, and we have commitments from both, without question, that as this thing evolves. And it will be a transitional, don't you think? You know, it can't just flop over at one point, because there's too many scheduled events and too many things. Be kind of a marriage at some point. If that's the avenue that we want to go.
Why don't we take a day to develop questions off of this? Is that okay? Because somebody might think of something when they wake up in the morning. And we'll see if we can't call him tomorrow. Is that all right?
Perfect.
And you're gonna try to get clarification on what process we have to go.
I'm gonna have that today, if I can get a hold. Do you know if Rick's in town?
He's in the city, but he has a cell phone.
I'll try to
And you
call
have the
him.
number.
I'll try to call him today, and then I'll report back to both of you guys what I find out. That way you can each hear it from you.
We're gonna seek out then information on assuming that property and complications are therein. Okay.
Any further discussion?
What I was saying, and this is just an example, and I forwarded it all to you via email, so it's something else for you to look at, but it is an RFP for an event coordinator. Because that was something that we talked over, that he brought up, that we need to have them in on the ground floor. And it's an example of how you would advertise for that type of a person, whether it be a person or an agency or whatever. It's just one example for everybody to look at. So I did send it to you guys.
It's a good point, and that needs to happen quickly also.
I've been following Enid's events in a little bit, just through the newspaper, and they are contracting with something called Spectra, I think. It's a nationwide management firm that manages arenas and event centers.
Do they do both of the facilities in Enid?
I think just the new event center.
The downtown one,
Downtown.
okay.
All I know is what I read was one guy was leaving and
Right,
was
and
going
new
to
one coming in. I
Colorado,
saw that too.
And then the other guy came, the now came from somewhere, Salina, Kansas, maybe,
Right.
but I don't know what it costs, but they, I think they manage the facility and book all the events.
That was called Spectre.
Spectra, I think.
He says he's available. I'm just gonna text him back and tell him that you guys will be calling me. Unless you know about it.
Yeah, maybe call them in the next 48 hours or so.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, for lunchtime.
So I guess I'd make a motion that we nominate Darren and Mike to form a subcommittee to visit with Mr. Calvert about questions about the contract and complexity thereof, and be able to bring back a recommendation to the board. And hopefully it'll be a special meeting that we'd have ever so brief, but to get the ball rolling. Is that correct? Is that what we're thinking?
That,
Holder,
Yes.
Cunningham,
yes.
Glass.
Yes?
Slater.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
You guys are looking at a special meeting. Is there any dates that don't work, as long as everybody is here? And Jim, how long are you wanting to go?
Well,
You're getting into graduations and all that, so I'm just kind of wanting to know what everybody's calendar looks like.
my scope would be a week, but maybe it's 10 days. That would probably get us through most of that season, would it not?
A week would be May 10th.
Maybe that's too quick. Is that too quick? You guys think?
I don't think on our end it's too quick. I mean, unless you get to June, you're not gonna miss any of the meetings. But, I mean, if we do a noon type meeting, we should miss most of those events that's gonna happen in the evening time, so.
The 10th works for me, but that's not too quick.
It's fine for me.
Good with you, Dr. Tucker?
Go for it.
Okay.
Okay, so noon, May 10th here.
And I guess I'd make another proposal also, that those same two committee members go back to your presiding entities and,
That's included. And assuming the property and any
I don't think it was
complications.
included in my motion.
Yeah, I had already included it.
Perfect, okay. Scratch.
Anybody have anything else?
Any new business?
You're just running right through this. You're doing great.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All right, Tucker, Holder,
Yes.
Glass,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Hood,
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.